Greetings, friends. Today is not a good day because the Russians have carried out yet another massive combined terrorist attack against our country. They struck various cities, including Odessa. They killed a woman there. The Russian army also achieved a great victory by striking a rehabilitation center and killing more animals.
This is an institution that not only worked with children with disabilities. This is a place with a soul. They rescued animals here. Unfortunately, 2 of our animals died.
The Russian scum also struck our railway infrastructure. In the Kyiv region, they hit a train that was transporting grain. The most massive attack was directed at our capital. The Russian degenerates struck Ukreposhta and destroyed a freeze-dried food production facility.
I am the owner and founder of a food brand. Today, something happened that I never expected. A drone flew to us.
At the same time, Russian terrorists, as before, deliberately, purposefully and intentionally attacked residential buildings using drones. Also, one of the Russian missiles struck a residential building in Kyiv and destroyed it. As of now, at least 15 people are known to have been killed in our capital.
See, the 9-story building has collapsed down to the level of 1.5 to 2 stories. The missile went through all the floors, all the way down to the basement.
It is also worth noting separately that for this attack, the Russians used, among other things, missiles with cluster submunitions specifically to inflict as many civilian casualties as possible.
The police have collected these kinds of bullets that are found here. These are cluster missiles with cluster warheads. These small pellets are inside to cause maximum harm to people.
I must remind you that they deliberately attacked civilian targets in order to spread fear among Ukrainians, to sow despair, to break our spirit. But they will not succeed. As expected, the Russians celebrated this terrorist attack.
Here are some shots of the aftermath of the explosions in Kyiv and the surrounding areas, and here's another one, also looks quite nice.
When it's very loud and very hot in Kyiv, that's very good.
And what about Trump's reaction to the ongoing Russian terror? Let's talk about his reaction a bit later. And now I urge you to help the security and defense forces of Ukraine so that our military has more drones, so that our soldiers can take revenge, so that the Russians get their empty heads blown off.
Your help is invaluable. These drones truly give us an advantage on the front line, but the need for them is enormous. There are never enough drones, and we use them until the very last one. We need more FPVs so we can destroy the occupiers even faster.
Force is the only language the Russians understand. Only when they start choking on their own blood and suffering even greater losses will they stop. I urge you once again to donate to Russories. All the payment details are, as always, in the description of this video. While the Russians were carrying out terrorist attacks and killing innocent people in their homes, Trump attended the G7 summit and stated that he deeply regretted that the so-called Russia was not there.
Putin talks to me and doesn't talk to anyone else. He doesn't want to talk because he felt very offended when he was kicked out of the gate. I would say that was a mistake because, in my opinion, there wouldn't be a war now if Russia were part of it. There wouldn't be a war now if Trump had been president 4 years ago.
That's not true, of course. The Russian Federation was excluded from the gate immediately after the start of the Russo-Ukrainian war in March 2014. As for sanctions, Trump also doesn't want to impose them against the Russians.
Earlier you said that you could impose sanctions against Russia. Why wait?
Because I'm just waiting to see if a deal will be made.
As we can see, the President of the United States is sticking to his word. It's been almost 3 weeks since Trump gave the Russians 2 weeks.
2 weeks. 2 weeks or less.
And after that, in theory, he should have done something against so-called Russia, but he refuses even to impose sanctions because, as it turns out, imposing sanctions on the Russians is not beneficial for America.
And don't forget, sanctions cost us a lot of money. When I impose sanctions on a country, it costs the US a lot of money.
But it's very beneficial for America when so-called Russia strengthens North Korea and helps Iran. Of course, right now, practically the only thing the Americans have actually done against the Russians, if you can even call it that, is cancel another round of US-Russian talks. Why? They didn't explain. There's an incredible theory. Maybe the Americans realize that the Russians are just making fools of them. There's a more realistic theory. The Russians don't need to hold another round of talks with the Americans because Vladimir Putin is already having phone calls with Trump. And there's also the Russian version. Everything is against Russia.
Judging by the fact that today the United States of America postponed another round of diplomatic negotiations with our country, it seems that Donald Trump has some questions for us.
At the G7 summit, Trump was also supposed to meet with the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, but apparently did not because he left the summit urgently, supposedly due to the situation in the Middle East.
But due to what is happening in the Middle East, President Trump will leave here this evening, shortly after dinner, with the heads of state.
Meanwhile, the Israeli-Iranian war continues in the Middle East. Iran is attacking Israel with ballistic missiles. Israel continues to destroy Iran's military infrastructure, striking at the airfield. They also struck one of Iran's propaganda TV channels. Caution, it's going to get loud.
At that moment, there were just people sitting around.
It is now becoming clear that Israel's goal is not only to deprive Iran of the ability to produce nuclear weapons, but also to replace the regime there. And that's not a bad thing for us, because in that case the regime will most likely be pro-Western. Netanyahu does not rule out that Israel might try to eliminate the Ayatollah.
His concern is that this could escalate the conflict beyond its current level.
This won't escalate the conflict. It will end it.
It would be very beneficial for Israel if the United States also joined the war against Iran. Netanyahu is trying to convince Trump of this. He says that it was Iran that tried to kill him, meaning Trump, and that the United States must help.
So just imagine what they're doing now without nuclear weapons, chanting death to America. Without nuclear weapons, imagine what will happen if they get nuclear weapons.
Within America itself, there isn't exactly overwhelming and unequivocal support for the idea of the United States entering a war against Iran. Some senators, like Lindsey Graham, are categorically in favor.
We have a chance to eliminate the threat to the state of Israel once and for all by replacing this regime with something better. And I believe that the biggest winner from the Ayatollah's departure will be the Iranian people.
Some American senators, including those from the Republican Party, on the contrary, are opposed to the United States entering a war against Iran. Tucker Carlson, who was previously a fervent supporter of Trump, also spoke out categorically against it. Apparently, something has changed now.
I'm truly afraid that my country will continue to weaken because of this. I think we will witness the end of the American empire. Obviously, other nations would like to see that. And this is the perfect way to undermine America on the shores of Iran.
And because of this statement, Carlson essentially had a falling out with Donald Trump, who in response called him crazy. And this suits us as well, because Carlson is openly pro-Russian, and the fewer pro-Russian devils there are in the circle of the President of the United States, the better.
Someone, please explain to the crazy Tucker Carlson that Iran really cannot have nuclear weapons.
And I noticed something interesting. When Carlson essentially supports Iran, Trump starts calling him names. But when the Russians support their ally Iran, Trump keeps insisting that Russia should not have been excluded from the gate.
Why is Russia defending Iran? Is Russia defending international law?
And what has Iran done wrong? No, seriously. What exactly has Iran done?
And this once again proves just how hypocritical and disgusting the position of the United States of America is. There is one piece of bad news which I have already warned about before. Russian FPV fixed-wing drones are already reaching Sumy.
Got it. Look, there's another one. Let's move out. Come on. Yeah, a few minutes ago there was one strike and now there's a hit on the city council. You saw it yourselves.
Together we can help save as many lives as possible. In particular, through the Heavenly Russerizer project, we regularly purchase anti-aircraft FPV interceptors that shoot down Russian drones, including the very drones the enemy uses to attack Sumy, as well as drones that guide ballistic missiles. That's why I urge you once again, contribute to the Russerizer so that we can help protect as many of our people's lives as possible, and so that Russian degenerates, Russian scum, receive guaranteed retribution and punishment from the sky. Together with you, we are approaching 200,000 drones purchased for our military. That's a huge number, but it's still not enough. And for now, thanks to you, our soldiers have received another 300 new FPV drones.
We, the soldiers of the Interceptor Battery of the 40th Coastal Defense Brigade, are sincerely grateful to Serhiy Stanenko's community and to everyone who contributed to the fundraising. We know our job.
Thank you to the Stanenko community for providing the drones that will help us continue to destroy enemy aircraft. Glory to Ukraine.
Glory to Zero!
Thank you to Serhiy Sternenko and his community for providing interceptor drones to the air defenders of the 28th Separate Mechanized Brigade named after the Knights of the Winter campaign. Glory to Ukraine!
We express our gratitude to the charitable foundation Sternenko community for their important contribution to our army, specifically for providing us with excellent digital drones to operate in the sky and destroy enemy reconnaissance drones.
Wishing you good health. The warriors of the Skylords unit express their gratitude to the Sternenko community for providing 50 FPV drones to create the VBR movement. Glory to Ukraine.
Huge thanks to the Sternenko community and everyone who contributed to the fundraising for the Russoriz's FPV drones. Your help is invaluable. These drones truly give us an advantage on the front line, but the need for them is enormous. There are never enough drones, and we use them until the very end. We need more FPVs so we can destroy the occupiers even faster. Donate to Russoriz. Let's bring victory closer together. Glory to Ukraine.
Glory to the heroes. Friends, we have received a lot of requests from Sumy region as well as from the Pokrovsk, Kostiantynivka and Novopavlivka directions. Our soldiers are really counting on your help. Keep supporting the security and defense forces of Ukraine.